Today we're going to be taking a look at Frankenstein chapters 4 through 6. We're going to talk about some important themes, plot details, and foreshadowing that occurs. So this is kind of when we see Victor really becoming fascinated with science. His enthusiasm for science really snowballs. A lot of that comes from both professors Kremp and Waldman. He Victor leaves home. He's at university. His family's far away in Geneva. Um, and one of his professors, Kremp, is a professor of natural science or philosophy. He kind of talks about its relation to the other sciences. We have Waldman, who kind of talks more about the chemistry side of things. So both of these men kind of snowball Victor's fascination with science, but neither of them really understand how much of a fascination he has with science, this rekindling for human life or of human life. Um, so this kind of leads to his creation. He begins to study the human body, its anatomy, and how it falls apart. And after several years, he masters all that his professors have taught him, and he goes on further to discover life. So he hides away in his apartment where no one can see him, and he begins to create this creature. Now, I want to note before we get into this, the the full title of Frankenstein is Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. Now, this is from Theogony, also Metamorphosis. So, if you're familiar with mythology and Greek history, Prometheus is an ancient Greek titan, and he is the cousin of Zeus. So, here is an image portraying the two of them together. So, we know Zeus is very powerful. But it's possible that because Shelley refers to the modern Prometheus, um, she's kind of outlining this creation of life, from the clay in the image of the gods. Um, we learn briefly that Prometheus was bound to a rock, and each day a bird comes down and pecks out his liver um, because Zeus called for this. So it's kind of interesting if you want to relate Prometheus to death, or if you kind of want to see as the story progresses, we kind of see this happen to Victor. It just starts to eat away at him. Um, so let's move on to chapter 5. Let's see where I'm at. Okay. Chapter 5, the creature comes to life. And Victor doesn't seem to look beyond the yellow skin and the watery eyes. His assessment of the creature is pretty instant. He becomes embittered as a result of the way that others treat him through the creature. Though the creature seems like a good guy, um, he's scared of him. His initial response to the creature is it horrifies him. It's a stormy night. Um, the way he creates the creature is to have him lying on a bed and electricity shocks him awake. So he's really scared of his creation. In the midst of all of this, he runs into his friend Henry Clerval, who also just began studying at university. He finds that seeing Henry is more of a breath of fresh air for him, and he's relieved that there's no sign of the monster. Because after the monster awoke, it kind of overpowered him and eventually ran away. Um, because Victor is so distraught with this, Henry kind of nurses him back to health and helps him recover, where eventually he writes a letter to Elizabeth. Um, so that's kind of an interesting point to make. Um, Once we see this creation actually concur, we can see the connection to this Prometheus, right? Um, As a punishment for the stealing of fire, Zeus ordered the god Hephaestus to fashion a woman out of clay. So we kind of see the whole connection to creating the body and creating life. So we see Victor's life kind of snowball here after his creation.